Joining us now, Administrator Linda McMahon. Great to have you, Mrs. Administrator. We know you got a lot going on. We appreciate the time.
How about Linda?
Okay, Linda, you got it. Hey, just now for your information on Fox and Friends, Linda, you got, and the SBA got a positive shout out from someone in West Virginia who said that the Small Business Administration is responsible for job growth in the state. And I just heard that from our friend, our good friend here in the John Fredericks Radio Network, Curtis Ellis. Well, he's a good guy. He's been with me a very long time, and he's with the Department of Labor right now. So you got a shout out. I know that, Linda, one of the things that you're trying to do is really change the perception of the Small Business Administration as simply somebody you apply for a loan to an organization that is at the engine of business growth in the USA. Linda, can you elaborate on that?
Well, John, good morning, and thanks for having me on. It's always great to come on and talk about SBA. And if I can just elaborate for a minute, we just had a terrific week. On Tuesday, we celebrated SBA Day at the White House with the President, and Ivanka Trump and I took questions from an audience of small businesses, and it was just a tremendous event with the President talking about his jobs program and small businesses, because he does support and believe that small businesses are the engine of our economy. And he's just incredibly supportive of that growth, and I think we see that in the jobs numbers that came out this morning. And it was nice to get that shout-out from West Virginia. It's one of the places where we see jobs growing. So I'm incredibly pleased to be at SBA, and I really want to make sure that it doesn't continue to be the best-kept secret, because we are an agency that offers, yes, access to capital, because businesses that are starting and growing need capital, but they also, almost as importantly, can need counseling and mentoring on how to develop business plans, how to scale their businesses. And we have so many offices that help do that. So many of our professional resource partners, like SCORE, which is an agency that's combined of retired, often retired executives, but not always retired, who volunteer their time to help businesses. We have our women's business centers, our small business development centers, research projects, and I can go on and on. We just have so much to offer, and I would just encourage anyone who's thinking of starting or growing their business to check where their local SBA district office is. There are 68 in the country. They can go on SBA.gov, which just is full of information. So I know I'm going on a bit, but I just can't let go of the opportunity to really tout all the benefits and services of SBA, and I'm really thrilled to be here.
Well, I applaud really, Linda, what you're doing, because small business is at the engine of job growth in America. Over 65% of all new jobs come from small businesses. And as you know, many small businesses that start, they fail. I think what the average is about 70% of small businesses that start fail in the first 24 months. So if you're starting a new business, go to SBA.gov, get information, get some help, get some mentoring. It's really beyond funding. And I think that Administrator McMahon and President Trump understand in order to grow jobs in the country, you have to be able to grow small businesses. And in order to do that, you have to be able to help them. And that's what you're trying to do. Let me also congratulate the administrator on getting her deputy confirmed in the U.S. Senate yesterday, Allie. And I have no idea how to say her last name.
Coetzee.
Coetzee. All right, that's easy enough. Allie Coetzee.
Her formal name is Althea Coetzee, but she goes by Allie. She was two-star admiral in the Navy, and I'm really pleased that we'll have her services on board, because we're just going to continue now to broaden the availability of advice and counseling. She has an incredibly strong background in procurement, a good part of what SBA does, our government contracts, and she's going to bring a lot to the table for us here at SBA.
What is your vision as the administrator of SBA? I know you talked in broad terms about changing the image of it, what people think of it, so they reach out more. What is your measurable vision What in 2 or 4 years into being the administrator, Linda, do you really want to see happen?
Well, as we've cited this morning, SBA helping to contribute for businesses to start and to grow, because when they start and when they grow, we have more people in the workforce. So we're creating jobs. No government entity is going to create any jobs. We can sure kill them with overregulation and overtaxation, but we're not going to create any jobs. But we can create an environment in which entrepreneurs can start their businesses or scale their businesses. And so, I'm all about measuring outcomes, not output. We can do a lot, and we can throw a lot of stuff against the wall, but it's that part that sticks that is going to be the measure of our success. And if we continue to grow jobs and we continue to get that GDP up, inching towards 3 and beyond, we will all share in that success in this administration.
We're with Small Business Administrator Linda McMahon. Linda, let's go to the bureaucracy that you've inherited as a chief executive of a company. You know how it is. You have your staff and you have your team, but you call the shots, you get things done. Now you're with a very sprawling civil service bureaucracy, a little bit different. How have you been able to manage through that and still get people to embrace what your vision is?
Well, it's always all about leadership, I think. And the president was very clear when he asked me to consider taking on this job that he wanted someone who had business experience. And he wanted someone who had built a business from the ground up and experienced the highs and lows of being in business and having some successes and failures, so that when you walk the walk, you can walk the walk and talk the talk when you're talking with our small businesses. Now, to translate that internally, I have the same business practice here that I had when I was a CEO in the private sector, and that is you hire good people around you. You give them direction. They all share your strategic vision, or they can't be part of the team. And you give them the latitude to execute that vision. You hold them accountable to it, and you give them clear direction. You have to navigate, obviously, government waters sometimes because, I'll say, well, let's go do this. Well, I'm sorry, ma'am, you can't do that just the way you would in the private sector. We have to file a Form 606 to get that done. So that's a little bit sometimes, I'll just use that as an example,
right.
of 606.
Right.
But sometimes I have to be pulled back a little bit because things have to be changed because they're statutory, or they're the law, or they're regulatory, and so you can't execute quite as quickly. But you just have to have a little patience when you know you're right and and then persevere.
Well, look, I think the bottom line is a lot of us that believe that we've got to get jobs going in the United States, and that is going to be the thing that's going to reelect this president and forward his agenda. We're looking for 3% growth in the economy. What you're doing fits into that. It's going to be the new battleground in the United States. So some of us that are concerned is, okay, we got this great business leader in this job, and is she going to get frustrated working through the system, the bureaucracy, the civil service, and everything else? But it sounds like you're adjusting to it without it dampening your overall enthusiasm.
Well, I can tell you I've gotten really bipartisan support in both the House Small Business Committee and the Senate Small Business Committee. The chairs of both of those committees and the other members are, it's a very bipartisan support that we have, because everybody wants a good economy. We want to grow our job base, and so I'm getting great cooperation on both sides of the aisle relative to pushing forth a lot of our agenda. Now, the big agendas that we're working on with the president are regulatory reform and tax reform and health care reform, and also workforce development. So there are those are 4 big things on the table that all of the agencies are working towards, and that'll be, that's a bigger push, to get those things through. But there's a lot that SBA can do now, as I mentioned, to really connect with the population more, to offer all of our services. And we can grow, and we can continue to grow. We would just grow faster and better if we get the regulatory and the tax reform through.
Linda,
and
right,
healthcare reform.
Right now, what is the Small Business Administration doing? What is your agenda as it comes to workforce development and being able to properly train some of our transitioning workers or younger workers into jobs that are available now in small businesses?
Well, as you know, the president a couple of weeks ago signed an executive order really supporting apprenticeships, and I was standing next to him when he did that, and so totally and wholly support that. He's putting about $100 million behind that project because we really, while I want everyone in the country, every student in the country who wants to go to college to be able to go to college, I think that there are a lot of occupations, especially in our trades, that we are not developing talent for. Our technology, our STEM courses is one, but also our trades. You know, our plumbers, our electricians, our carpenters, welders. You know, we have the Keystone Pipeline project that's been greenlit, and not enough welders trained, you know, to get it completed. So, you know, we're recognizing that we have to work, you know, with our education department, that we have to work with our community colleges, you know, to build these skills. And there are many companies now who are working, especially with the community colleges, putting in equipment and the programs that those students who are studying, when they graduate, are not only trained on the equipment the company needs, but they've also been working part-time in apprentice programs. And I think you're seeing public-private partnerships, you know, across the country that are going to be a basis for building the workforce, because it's not going to happen in a timely fashion if it's not a public-private partnership.
Administrator McMahon, the president 2 days ago, rolling out, along with Tom Cotton and David Perdue, Senators Arkansas and Georgia respectively, a massive immigration reform program, basically saying, look, we've got to prioritize jobs in the United States for U.S. workers, those coming out of college and those that are unemployed right now. And, well, a lot of the immigration program we have in place doesn't really do anything to help the U.S. worker. If that plan was implemented, how would that affect the SBA, and how would that affect small businesses in the United States finding workers with that level of immigration being reduced?
John, I've not spent as much time looking at that simply because I have been so focused on what SBA is doing, you know, to build its programs and to reach out. So I'm going to wait and see how that continues to evolve. I think the president certainly is. He is focused on making sure that the American worker has top priority, and I certainly do support him in that endeavor.
Let's get to the president's agenda on tax reform. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and Gary Cohn putting out a one-page, double-spaced principles of tax reform they want. I know you've looked at that. What are some of the key elements in there? If we get that passed, do you think, from the position that you're in as small business administrator, is going to really be an asset to small business growth?
Without fail, whenever I'm out conducting business roundtables, and I've been now to about 15 states, visiting the SBA offices in those different districts, and when I go into those districts, I have business roundtables, I visit small businesses, and I visit our district office. And without fail, I hear from every small business, please let us know about tax reform and regulatory reform and healthcare reform. Number one really being oftentimes back and forth between tax and regulatory reform. And basically what they tell me is, and most of them are sub-S corporations or LLCs or sole proprietorships. And so they're basically telling me, please just get the bill through, reduce our tax rate, let us know what it's going to be so we can plan our businesses. And if we get a reduction in our taxes and we have more money in our pockets, it will absolutely add to the growth of our business because we will hire more employees and it'll give us the ability to expand. So the tax relief and lowering the tax rate, I think you'll see a tremendous amount of growth with our small business community.
All right, well, we have to get that done. We're out of time for this segment. I really want to thank the administrator of the Small Business Administration in the Donald Trump administration, Linda McMahon. This is a secretary-level position, and she's trying to really reform the image of the agency and get more people involved, because if there's anybody out there in America that understands job growth, the engine behind that is our small businesses today. It is Administrator Linda McMahon. Linda, thank you so much for being with us today. I can see that you're already making a big difference, and I just want you to be sure you keep your enthusiasm every day, because if you do that, you're going to be successful, and there's a lot of small businesses out there that need the SBA.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate being on this morning, and it's hard not to be enthusiastic when you have a president that's so passionate about what he's trying to put through.
It's all about jobs for American workers. We do that, and this president and this administration is going to be, Linda, unbelievably successful. Thanks for being with us.